Prime Minister Modi has landed in Tel Aviv. A few hours later, he will address the Israeli Knesset and visit the Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial Museum. At the same time, the Mediterranean is teeming with US naval assets. Aircraft carrier strike groups at the beck and call of the US president, ready to launch what could be the biggest American strike in recent times on Iran. Also in the backdrop, 11 F-22 Raptors have landed on an Israeli airbase. Aircraft typically used to take out enemy air defenses before a larger strike is launched. All this is happening as Trump's 48-hour deadline approaches. Unless Iran submits a concrete proposal in Geneva on February 26th, a military plan to target Ali Khamenei could begin to unfold. So this is a visit everyone is watching closely and asking why the Indian Prime Minister is visiting Israel now. We will get into that, but first, listen to this.
In the vision that I see before my eyes, we will create a complete system, essentially a kind of hexagon of alliances around or within the Middle East. This includes India, it includes Arab countries, it also includes African countries, countries in the Mediterranean, Greece and Cyprus, and also countries in Asia that I will not list right now. I will present it in an orderly manner.
Now that should tell you why Netanyahu wants Prime Minister Modi in Israel at this moment, to cement a coalition before any action is taken against Iran. What is not clear, however, is why India would agree to be a part of Netanyahu's Hexagon. There are many who argue India should not join any such alliance. I'm Abhishek Singh, and this is what we will talk about in this video. Should India join the Hexagon framework? If yes, why? You should watch it if you disagree with those who say India must stay out of any club that includes Israel. You should watch it if you think the downside is bigger than the upside. And you should watch it if you don't even know what the Hexagon framework is. Let's get started. So, there are two kinds of countries in the world. Those inside the room, where decisions are made. And the rest, those who want in but can do little more than knock. India historically has been in the second category. Case in point, the United Nations Security Council. Every time India has said knock knock, those inside have replied, who? The joke has been on us. 8 decades after its creation, the UNSC door remains closed to India. I am not going to get into all the consequences of being outside that room, despite being the world's most populous country and the 5th largest economy, because that would take an hour-long monologue. But the very fact that India is still knocking tells you what you need to know. It is a room we want to enter and still cannot. Understanding that is key to understanding how the world works. Being in the room is the first step. Participating in decision-making and shaping outcomes comes after. This is Realpolitik 101. Now, before I address the specific arguments against India joining this framework, let me quickly explain what this framework is. So, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's Hexagon framework is a proposed, loosely structured alliance linking Israel, India, Greece, Cyprus, and selected Arab, African, and Asian states in and around the Middle East. The Israeli Prime Minister announced it just hours before Prime Minister Modi's 2026 Israel visit. The framework aims to coordinate economic, diplomatic, and security cooperation among like-minded countries. Prime Minister Netanyahu has framed it as an axis of nations against what he calls a radical Shia axis, meaning Iran and its proxies, an emerging radical Sunni axis, centered on Iran-backed extremist groups, while positioning India as a core global power, pillar of this network system. What this group will actually do in concrete terms and what day-to-day cooperation will look like is still not very clear. Let's now circle back to our main task, addressing the major arguments against India joining any framework that includes Israel, mostly because of Israel's human rights record. And let me be very clear at the outset, when I say India should consider the proposal and see if there is enough in it for India to join. That is not a clean sheet for Israel or a dismissal of the human rights complaints against it. Now let's take the arguments one by one. This is the most common but also the weakest argument, because India has already shown it can sit inside multilaterals without surrendering autonomy. India is part of the Quad, BRICS, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization or SCO, I2U2, and multiple Gulf security dialogues, and yet has refused to join any formal military alliance or accept binding defense obligations. There is no structural reason the Hexagon has to be different. Netanyahu's own public pitch describes the Hexagon as a framework for economic, diplomatic, and security cooperation, not a NATO-style defense pact with Article 5 type guarantees. That gives India room to sign up for issue-based cooperation, retain caveats, and refuse automatic escalation against any enemy defined in Tel Aviv. India has already demonstrated that it can pick and choose. It buys massive amounts of Israeli defense technology, even while maintaining civilizational ties and energy links with Iran, and refusing to fully follow US or Israeli sanctions lines. Joining a non-treaty framework does not magically erase that pattern. This assumes the Hexagon will behave like a war-fighting alliance. The proposal itself and India's track record do not support that. The Hexagon is pitched as a network connecting India, Israel, Greece, Cyprus, and select Arab, African, and Asian partners, built around economic integration, diplomatic alignment, and security collaboration, not joint expeditionary warfare. In that sense, it looks much closer to ITU-2 than to a CENTO 2.0. Look at the Ukraine-Russia war, for example. India has deep economic and diplomatic ties with Russia, but it has not entered that war on Moscow's side. That is a real-world example of Delhi resisting entanglement, even when relationships are close. This is the most serious concern, but precisely because it is serious, it is manageable with explicit design choices. You deal with the devil when you see it in the details. You don't assume it is there, and that its removal is non-negotiable. Now, New Delhi can credibly say, we are in the room precisely to prevent this framework from becoming an explicitly anti-Iran military bloc. That stance is more reassuring to Tehran than an India that is outside the framework and unable to moderate it. India's domestic political capital among the Shias and the Sunni communities depends far more on its internal policies and its direct stand on Palestine than on its membership in an abstract regional grouping. Joining an Israeli-led framework while Gaza is still smoldering will hurt India's Global South credentials, right? Not necessarily. In West Asia today, India is already seen primarily as a pragmatic power that simultaneously engages Israel, Gulf monarchies, Russia, Ukraine, Iran, and the US, while voting for ceasefires or humanitarian resolutions when it suits its interests. Nobody in the region sees India as a purely moral actor. They see it as a large transactional player. Paradoxically, that gives New Delhi more room to maneuver. And remember, the Gaza war has not stopped several Arab states, from the UAE to Bahrain and others, from continuing or even deepening their normalization with Israel. If Arab capitals themselves calculate along those lines, India is under no obligation to be holier than everybody else. Netanyahu clearly wants India on board. That's clear. The question for India is, what can the country get out of it? Here's what is potentially on the table for India. Number 1. Corridors and logistics. The Hexagon mirrors and can reinforce the India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor vision, linking Indian ports to Gulf, Levant, and Mediterranean terminals via rail and sea. Even if the original IMEC timelines have slipped, the political idea survives. The Hexagon is another political wrapper to revive and rebrand that connectivity under India-friendly conditions. Number 2. Defense and technology. India is already one of the biggest buyers of Israeli arms and dual-use tech. A structured framework makes co-development and joint R&D much easier. There are credible reports that Israel has offered technology transfer and joint production for Iron Dome and Iron Beam systems as part of a larger defense package for India, including potential integration of India into Israel's laser-based air defense ecosystem. Iron Beam in particular is designed to shoot down drones and rockets at very low per-shot costs, using high-energy lasers instead of expensive interceptors. Food, water, and energy security. ITU-2 has already shown that India-Israel-UAE cooperation can build food corridors and green energy projects. A broader hexagon can scale that up into desalination projects, smart agriculture, green hydrogen, and clean energy initiatives across the region. Diplomatic multiplier. Being explicitly recognized as a global power at the center of a new regional framework strengthens India's claim in wider global governance debates, including UNSC reform. symbolism matters. It accumulates over time. Every grouping that treats India as a co-architect rather than a rule-taker slowly shifts how others perceive India's role in the system. From a cold-blooded calculus, the Hexagon is a low-cost, high-optionability bet. India can participate at carefully limited levels, capture connectivity and technology gains, and walk back or downgrade its role if the bloc drifts in directions that clash with its core interests, something India has done in the past. And let me repeat one last time. If anyone thinks these arguments for India to consider or even join the framework amount to giving Israel a clean chit on the human rights violation allegations against it, they're mistaken. That would be missing the wood for the trees. What do you think? Should India join the Hexagon framework or not? Don't forget to share your thoughts with us in the comment section. If you like watching this video, please like and share and subscribe to The Mint. Thank you for watching.